This Polish Jew was trying to escape the Nazi soldiers hunting him down. He'd been hiding in an abandoned hospital for a month now, surviving on scraps of food and dirty water. The next day, he watched German soldiers torch the entire building. Terrified, he bolted out immediately, somehow managing to slip through a gap in the wall. When he saw the once thriving city reduced to rubble, he was stunned, so he decided to find somewhere in the ruins to hide. He started searching for food, wandering through the bombed-out buildings. Luckily, he found a can on top of a cabinet. That night, as he tried to pry it open, the can suddenly slipped from his hands. Right then, a devil-like figure appeared before him. He froze in terror, unable to speak. The officer asked what he was doing and where he came from. Even stranger, after learning the man was a pianist, the officer led him to the next room. He said, "If you really play piano, then play something for me in here." He immediately started playing in front of the officer. His brilliant skill left the officer standing there, speechless. Finally, he was convinced, deeply moved by the man's artistry. Afterward, the officer asked, "Where are you hiding? Do you have food?" The officer left again, but he didn't kill him. Instead, he decided to let him live. The man hid in the attic and wept, feeling like his end was near. A few days later, the officer came back with a thick package, fresh bread and jam inside. He also brought news. The Red Army had reached the border, and Germany would likely be defeated. So the officer said, "Stay in this building for a few weeks. Everything will be all right." Days later, the man enjoyed the delicious food and thanked the officer from the bottom of his heart. He silently swore he would never forget this officer's kindness. When the Soviet Red Army drove the Germans out of Poland, the officer came one last time. He brought a large supply of food and handed it to the man, who was completely overwhelmed. How could he ever repay such kindness? But the officer simply said he thanked God, and before leaving, he even took off his coat and gave it to him. A few days later, the man saw a military convoy pass by with the Polish national anthem playing. He understood the country was free. He was overjoyed. He wanted to embrace and celebrate with his fellow survivors. But then a woman shouted, "There's a Nazi soldier here." Because the man was wearing the coat the officer had given him, Polish soldiers rushed forward to grab him. The man immediately shouted, "I'm Polish!" He threw his hands up and came forward. He tried to explain he was only wearing the coat to stay warm. Eventually, the soldiers believed him. A few weeks later, German soldiers were held as prisoners of war in a concentration camp. There, a Jewish soldier spotted these POWs and started cursing them furiously. "Look what you people did to us Jews!" At that moment, the compassionate officer who'd saved the pianist stepped forward and asked the Jewish soldier, "Do you know that pianist? The one who used to play on the radio?" Turns out the man was the pianist's friend. So the officer told him his name and said, "Pass this message to him. Find a way to get me out of this POW camp." When the pianist heard the news, he immediately rushed to the camp. But by then, all the prisoners had been transferred to another camp, and no one knew where it was. In the end, the pianist started a new life in Warsaw, performing with orchestras. But that German officer had already been killed in the POW camp.